All right, welcome to the show. We are just gonna cut right to the chase. I need to let you know a little bit about who I am, what my channel's about, give you a little bit of history of the channel, and then we're gonna dive in to whether or not America, that is the United States of America, is America in the Bible? Is it in the Bible? And you're going to be shocked as to what I reveal to you. But I need to break this down. That light's on. I'm going to turn off that light. There we go. All right. I'm going to need to break this down for you so that you don't have any biases. That's what we're going to try and eliminate, because it's going to be very hard for you to see what I'm about to share with you. As you know, I have this book here. Look at this. This is the 1611 King James Bible, King James Holy Bible, first edition, facsimile, meaning if you were to transport yourself back in time to 1611, you're going to be here. You're going, I'm reading the comments as well. You are going to see page for page this. So if you have an original King James Bible, you're transported over 400 years, and you flip to Isaiah chapter 26, you're going to be on the same page, and it's going to look exactly the same, word for word, in a Gothic type font. So hold on to that thought. You are not far off. America is the eagle in Revelation, correct? I'm telling you, man, when I share with you what I'm about to share, and I'm not trying to make this clickbaity. I promise you, I'm not trying to make this clickbaity, because I gotta get rid of your cognitive biases. Meaning, you have a bias that's over top of you, and if I don't peel that back, you're not going to be able to listen to what I'm about to read in the King James 1611 Bible. You're going to be like, I don't believe it. You're going to be like, I don't believe you, Shane. I don't believe you, Shane. I don't believe what you're reading here. And then you're going to turn off this channel, and you're going to unsubscribe, and you're going to go to bed, and you're like, no, I can't believe this. So I got to slowly rip the Band-Aid off. Slowly. So where do we begin? As you know, I've been doing a lot of videos lately on the King James 1611 Bible. And what I did is I did a bit of a deep dive. I've been taking lots of notes. And I went through the history of how we got the Bible. So if you missed that, watch that video. I'm not going to go through the whole thing in detail, but I'm just going to summarize it real quick. We didn't have an English Bible once upon a time ago. I think that makes sense to most people. Like, yeah, I kind of get it. But what we don't understand is how we got it. So we had a gentleman by the name of John Wycliffe that painstakingly wrote every page of the Holy Bible from Latin into English. Very painful. Very, very, very painful. And then later we have others that are trying to do the same. And we have a gentleman by the name, and this is all around the 15th century. We have another gentleman by the name of William Tyndale that spent a lot of time understanding, learning, writing, reading Hebrew, Greek, and 6 other languages, mainly the Romance languages, French, Spanish, Italian. What else do you know? He knew German as well. French, I say? Yes. Spanish? Yes. English? Yes. Hebrew, Greek, and Latin, of course. So eight languages. The reason why this is important is because we begin to see a bit of an evolution of people trying to transcribe books from another language into their language, into their common tongue. So we see this happening, and it was already happening before William Tyndale. It was just happening in other languages, meaning if somebody understood Hebrew, they would translate it into French. If somebody understood Hebrew, they would translate it into Spanish or whatever. But what was happening was it was very difficult to get your hands on the scripture because the Roman Catholic Church had a tight grip on it. But there were other translations out there, just wasn't in English. What most people don't know, and this is me slowly ripping the Band-Aid off, and we're going to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. This is almost like this is the red pill, blue pill thing. What most people don't know is when John Wycliffe wrote down the books of the Bible in English, again, handwriting them. This little pen here, little fancy little pen. He wrote everything by hand. He wrote 80 books. You might be thinking, that's kind of weird. I thought we had 66. Yeah, so did I. So did I. Turns out we have 80 books. We have 80 books. 14 of them are the Apocrypha. Again, I might have ripped the Band-Aid off a little bit. You got to stay with me. I'm telling you. You got to stay with me just for a minute. This is how I approached the Apocrypha a few months ago. Stay away. Don't want to talk about it. I don't want anything to do with the Apocrypha. That's for Catholics. All this kind of stuff. Just no. I have here 1611 King James Bible, and it has the Apocrypha in it. So for some reason, you can't throw this away. You have to think, why did 47 polyglots that spoke multiple languages, including King James himself, spoke at least 5 languages? You got to ask yourself the question, why was it important enough for the King James translators to at least put it in between the Old and the New Testament? Okay, we're not talking about canon. We're not talking about inspired scripture. We're not talking about anything but the idea of, it's almost like, what would it be like? Pretend you have this book here, okay? Here's all my notes. You put it in the book here. You hand it to someone. It's got my journal in here. Would anyone in their right mind say that this journal is inspired? No. But is it a good read? Perhaps. Perhaps you guys would like to get your hands on my journal. But nobody would say it's inspired. But if I put a rubber band around this and put it into a plastic bag and stored it away, it's protected now. Inside the Bible, it's protected. And there were ancient Jewish documents that needed protecting because the Jews had their canon established, their 39 books, arguably 24 to them, 39 to us, but they had it settled, meaning they the last book was Second Chronicles, or according to the Jewish Bible, would be Malachi. And then following that was 400, what we would call 400 silent years. So again, this is very important. I won't be able to sleep unless I get this off my chest. So we have a time period between the Old Testament and the New Testament where things were still happening to the Jews. And a handful of them wrote down stories or historical things that were happening. Enter the Maccabees, the Jewish revolt. There isn't a Jewish scholar on the planet that is going to argue with you and say that the books of Maccabees wasn't at least historical in nature, as in it really happened. I've seen Jewish rabbis that can't stand Paul the Apostle, can't stand Jesus Christ, can't stand the Gospels, can't stand the New Testament, but they'll say, I kind of wish we included Maccabees into our canon. I kind of wish we did, or I kind of wish we hung on to it. But it's interesting that the Christians did. The Christians hung on to it ever since the Septuagint. You might be asking yourself, what is the Septuagint? Well, the Septuagint is the Old Testament translated into Greek before Christ. And you can even reference that you can even infer, if you will, the idea that at least a handful, probably more. I'm just trying to be really, really simple here. A handful of people at least were aware of the Septuagint in the time of Jesus because they quoted it. They quoted things from the Septuagint in Greek because, again, the Greek, the Greek Jews that spoke and wrote Greek, translated the Hebrew scriptures, the 39 books of the Old Testament, into Greek because they were worried about losing their language. They're worried about losing the Old Testament in Hebrew because more people were speaking Greek. So they preserved it, and they also preserved in Greek the Apocrypha, which is quite fascinating. They preserved it not as inspired scripture, but as to preserve what was happening after Malachi to Jesus Christ. So you can safely say, and this is like 99.99.99% of scholars today, including people like Wes Huff, all these people, I don't want to put my words in his mouth, but I'm sure he would agree with me on this, that, again, most scholars worth their salt, worth their weight in gold, would say that the Apocrypha was written at the most 400 BC all the way to 200 AD, 600 years. I'm being really loose on this one. I'm being really loose. Again, as you get more in depth, more people studying the Apocrypha, they would say, yeah, okay, 400, that's a little bit of a reach. Maybe 300 BC, 200 BC to 1 AD, before Christ was born. Or maybe after the temple was built, after 70 AD, but not really that far away. 100 AD, 150 AD, max 200. So that's why I say I want all the scholarship. I want all the scholars to be put into the category of between 400 BC and 200 AD. If I sat them all down in the room, they would say, yes, Shane, you're not crazy. We all agree with you. Get to the point. What are you trying to talk about? We all agree that the Apocrypha was written in the intertestamental period between the two testaments. No debate there. No debate with anyone. Now, where the debate is, and this is weird, but there is a debate saying, is it inspired or is it not inspired? Should it belong in the Bible? Should it not belong in the Bible? And the reason why I say it's weird is because for 1800 years, Christians have had the Apocrypha as part of their Bible. And you can argue inspired, not inspired. These documents are there. It's written arguably 2,000 years old documents, 2,000 plus, about what was going on in that time frame. So you have the 14 books of the Apocrypha, and I have them here. They're not in your King James Bible because you probably don't have the Apocrypha, because again, like me, you're probably taught do this to the Apocrypha. That's just for the Catholics. But isn't it interesting that John Wycliffe, one of the greatest Christian preachers, had the Apocrypha, felt the need to include the Apocrypha. Early church fathers mentioned the Apocrypha, quoted from the Apocrypha. Then you have what's the next Bible? Cloverdale, a good friend of Tyndale. He included the Apocrypha because he didn't understand Hebrew, but he understood German and Latin. So he finished Tyndale's work because Tyndale had the New Testament written. So then he went back to the Old Testament and grabbed some of the stuff from Tyndale and basically just said, oh, okay, he finished the first 4 or 5 books up to Joshua, I think, in the Old Testament, and some of the Psalms and that. And so I'm going to take that work and then I'm going to fill it in. I'm going to backfill it in with Latin and German. And this is now the Old Testament. This is now the Bible in English. That's Cloverdale. And then after him, a good friend, John Rogers of William Tyndale, said, you know what, I got more work. I got more of Tyndale's work. I'm going to put it all into the English Bible using Tyndale's work that was finished already with the New Testament plus other works of the Old Testament. And I'm going to put the Apocrypha as well in there. So now we have another English Bible, but now it's a little bit more polished. And then another person came along, and what was his name? Oh, same guy. John Rogers actually helped edit. He became the editor to edit the Great Bible, which we know as the chain Bible, meaning it was chained at the back of the church. Also included the Apocrypha. So that's another English version of the Bible. Then we get the Geneva Bible. Geneva. Is it Geneva? Yeah. Geneva, the one that basically has all doctrinal notes from John Calvin. And they included the Apocrypha. Then after him was the Bishop's Bible, I want to say. The Bishop's Bible. That also included the Apocrypha. Then you have, 6 versions of the English Bible. Remember, they're getting refined, they're getting polished. They all have the Apocrypha in it. Now you have the King James Bible, and they have the Apocrypha in it. So that's basically 1,600 years, and the King James Bible flourished for the next 200 years until the 18th century, arguably the 19th century, when publishers said, hey, it would be cheaper to remove the 14 books that are in the middle of the Bible, the Apocrypha. I think there was something else at foot, but this is what history will tell you. they removed the 14 books, put it aside, and then shipped them out by mail, published them. And moving forward, they would only publish King James Bibles without the Apocrypha. It wasn't a Catholic church that did it. It was a publishing house. I think it was the United Bible Society. I think. Don't quote me on that. So it was a publishing house that made the call to remove, after 1,800 years of having the Apocrypha, remember, documents. Again, we can say uninspired, but important. If you're offended at going, don't call it scripture, call it uninspired. But it's historical documents that were placed in between the Bible, in between the old and the new, to protect it from being destroyed from other people, because I believe God preserves his word. And if God is preserving his word, what better place to put historical documents than inside his word, because it's never going to get destroyed. It's never going to get missing. It's never going to go missing. So here I am, 55 years, coming across this Apocrypha, and I'm like, I was told that the Apocrypha was taboo, it's that magic, it's witchcraft, it's all, they talk about the dead, they worship the dead and all this kind of stuff. Don't look at it. What are you, Catholic? And it's like, was John Wycliffe Catholic? Don't think so. Was William Tyndale Catholic? Now, he didn't have time to finish the Apocrypha. That would have been interesting. He died. Isn't it interesting that he got killed before he could finish the Apocrypha? Because many people respect his work to this day. So the point I'm trying to get across to you, whether you want to read it or not, is two things you have to consider. They are real. They're not fake. Nobody inserted them in the 19th century and came up with the idea, let's call it Apocrypha. Let's put them in their Bibles and all that. No, it's historical. Again, 99% of scholars will go, Shane, we have no problem with the idea that these are real documents. These are real scripture, if you will, uninspired scripture, if you want to call it that way. But it's part of the tradition of what Christians would follow. The Jews didn't go in that direction at all. They kept the 39 books, and that's all. They didn't want Romans. So don't get carried away on the idea that they didn't like the Apocrypha, so that's what I'm staying. I'm staying with the Jews because they like the Old Testament. Well, they didn't like Paul. I'm talking about the non-Messianic Jews. They didn't like Paul. They didn't like any of his writings. They didn't like the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They didn't like the New Testament. So you got to kind of separate yourself from that. You got to go more into the Christian realm and go, look, we've been the custodians for the past 1,800 years, arguably 2,000 years, of the Old and New Testament, the Bible. We are the only ones that coined the phrase at the beginning, Bible. We call this Bible. Books, many books. We call it Bible in our English language. The Jews didn't call this a Bible until recently. They call it scrolls. They call it scripture. All this stuff. We're the ones, the English are the ones that said, hey, look, a Bible. That's in our native tongue. We call it a Bible. Got it from Latin, carried over from French, mixed in with Latin, and it stuck for us. And this is how we get our Bible. So again, there's two camps. There's one camp that says that these books are not inspired, therefore don't even have a look at them. Another camp that says, I know they're not inspired, but we got to have a look. We got to take a little sneak peek. We got to peek under the hood. Wouldn't you know, the word apocrypha means hidden. Hidden. These are documents. I'm trying to bring it down. These are documents that are hidden. Top secret documents to be revealed in the end times. Oh, what? Yes. I get goose pimples thinking about this because I'm telling you, you will see things like naming Jesus the Son of God in the Apocrypha before he was born. So if you're like, oh, no, somebody wrote that in. Somebody said, God said, my son Jesus is coming. Somebody wrote that in after the temple was destroyed. Okay, stick with me here. We just agreed that it was written between 400 BC and 200 AD, and we get the name Jesus in the Apocrypha, as in God is saying, my son Jesus is coming. Okay, scholars will go, we're going to go on tilt here. Let's move it to after the temple destruction. Okay, fine. Did you also know there's rapture verses in the Apocrypha as well? And I'll make another video about that. But I want to keep it tight, as in, is America in the Bible? And I'm presenting an argument that yes, it is, but I want you to see it. I don't want just me to see it. I want you to see it. But we have to get a little bit of the history out of the way to say, look, for the last 2,000 years, the Apocrypha was a big deal. The last 1,800 years. And the publishers removed the Apocrypha and said, it's nothing here. Nothing to see here. Don't look at it. See the division between Protestants and Catholics? And they're like, no, they got their thing. They do their thing. Don't look at these books. They're top secret, not for your eyes. Look at this here. Let's see. Hopefully I built that case up. Let's see here. What's the easiest way here? Let's go here, because I'm telling you, this is going to blow your socks off. You're not going to be able to sleep after this. Okay, let's just look at this real quick. So again, just so you don't think I'm making up stuff, books of the biblical Apocrypha were generally written between 400 BC and 100 AD, a period often called the Silent Years between the Old and New Testaments, specific books within the Apocrypha. Just want to make sure it's there. Yep. Then Apocrypha have varying dates. For example, additions to Esther were written around 100 to 1 BC, Second Ezra to around 90 to 100 CE. Okay, I told you, people are going to get uncomfortable with the Apocrypha, and they're going to say, well, yeah, it could be after the temple was destroyed. Again, between 400 and 200 BC. Some people are saying it goes back to 400. So every little article, everybody's saying the same thing. Intertestamental, in between the testaments, the old and the new. 80, 50, and 117. So they range quite a bit. All right. Then you get into why wasn't it part of the canon? All of this distraction. That's a distraction. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually have a look. We're going to have a little look-see at the Apocrypha, and you better hang on to your britches. I'm telling you, you better hang on tight, because I'm going to blow your socks off here. And I'm 55, and why didn't anybody tell me this stuff, you know? Okay, so now, again, I want to make it, I want to be as neutral as possible so that people don't say I'm just kind of swaying you guys and all this kind of stuff. So here is a website that you can go to right now, and you can check this stuff out. It's called Apocrypha King James Bible. So this is the Apocrypha that is in here. Okay. So let's just read a little bit about what these guys say the Apocrypha is about. The Apocrypha is a selection of books which were published in the original 1611 King James Bible. These apocryphal books were positioned between the Old and the New Testament, also containing maps and genealogies. I'm telling you, these maps are second to none. The Apocrypha was a part of the King James Version for 274 years until being removed in 1885 AD. A portion of these books were called deuterocanonical books by some entities such as the Catholic Church. That's what they would call the Apocrypha. Many claim that the Apocrypha should never have been included in the first place, raising doubt about its validity and believing that it was not God-inspired. For instance, a reference about magic seems inconsistent with the rest of the Bible. Tobit chapter 6, verse 5 and 8. Others believe it is valid and it should never have been removed, and that it was considered part of the Bible for nearly 2,000 years. And I would argue many used to believe that the Apocrypha was also inspired. So I'm not quite there yet, but I believe it's important to read. I'm just telling you what some of the early church fathers believed. They're like, don't take this out, don't touch it, don't edit it. It is what it is. Before it was recently removed. So it was removed a little more than 100 years ago. Some say it was removed because of not finding the books in the original Hebrew manuscripts. It's kind of weak, though. That's weak because remember, it was written after the canon was established. So, of course, they're not always going to put it in the Hebrew manuscripts. It's written in Greek as well. Remember, Jews were writing as fast as they could Hebrew manuscripts into Greek. Others claim it wasn't removed by the church, but by printers to cut costs in distributing Bibles in the United States. I would agree with that. Both sides tend to cite the same verses and warn against adding or subtracting from the Bible. Revelation 22:18. The word apocrypha means hidden. Fragments, because you Dead Sea Scroll lovers, fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls dating back to before 70 AD contain parts of the Apocrypha books in Hebrew, including Sirach and Tobit. Keep this in mind when reading the following apocryphal books. Martin Luther said, Apocrypha, that is, books which are not regarded as equal to the Holy Scriptures, and yet are profitable and good to read. Okay? Now that we got this all out of the way, we're not saying, at least I'm not saying here, that they're equal to the Holy Scriptures, but what I'm telling you is they could be very profitable, as in you're going to learn a lot. So now I'm going to take you to 2nd Ezra. And I'm not going to read every single chapter, but again, this is a great resource for you. This is the King James Bible Online. I'm just double checking to see if you guys are still with me. Still with me so far? Everybody cool? Makes sense? Crystal clear like mud? We figured out that the Apocrypha is important. Early church fathers thought it was important. They quoted it. Later, Martin Luther said, you know what, it's not equal with Scripture, but it's very important. It's profitable as well. So, isn't it kind of interesting? And I'm going to build a little bit of a case of this, but if you think back to 2001, what was one of the most catastrophic events that happened in America? 9/11, right? So if you think about that, that date is etched in infamy. 11. two towers, all this, like where you can't get away from it in America. And something changed. To me, that was a huge Black Swan event. Something changed in America that you couldn't quite taste, you couldn't quite feel, but it felt like this was the beginning of something for America. This is the first time that America was attacked on home soil by a foreign entity. Now, you can argue and say, oh, it was an inside job, Shane. It's so obvious. Well, I don't know if it's so obvious, except for maybe Building 7. But my point is, the world was never the same after that. Something happened, and it changed. So let's go over to, again, I'm going to take my face away for a sec just so you guys can see this. I'm going to try and blow it up a little bit. No pun intended. Let me see if I can I zoom in. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Ho, ho, ho. Can you guys see that? Oh, that's getting better, isn't it? Okay. Let's go. I'm telling you, you're going to be blown away, man. I'm telling you. I hope you're sitting down. Let's go to, we're going to go all the way to chapter 11, okay? Yeah, chapter 11. Do you know what chapter 11 means in the financial world? It's bankruptcy, right? Look at this here. All right. Making sure you guys can see this. Are you still with me? Give me a heck yeah if you're still with me in the comments. All right. Then, and the reason why I'm making this video too is I want to document it before my thoughts go out the window and then I forget all this stuff. So I'm just going to read the entire chapter. Okay. Then I saw a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. Isn't there something about a beast coming up out of the sea in the book of Revelation? Yes, it is. That's the Antichrist. We've all come to believe this. That's the Antichrist. Well, wouldn't you know that 2nd Ezra goes a little bit more specific, as in what does this Antichrist look like? Or what does this, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but what does this creature look like? Came out of the sea. So there came from the sea. Remember, this is arguably written before Christ was born. America did not exist. So there came up from the sea an eagle which had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. Isn't it interesting that there are 3 forms of government in the United States of America, run by 3 heads? One is the presidential, that's 1 head. What's the other one? Judicial, and then there's one more. Might be financial. Military, not sure. I can find it up. I'm just kind of lazy. Maybe you Americans know. Most of my audience is American. So 3 branches. Again, most people know this. Isn't it interesting that if you are into watching movies like West Wing, isn't it interesting that whenever we're talking about branches in the government, we're talking about West Wing, East Wing, different wings, all this kind of stuff, that's all related to an eagle. And out of all the nations in the world, yeah, legislative, that's right. Judicial, like, I think is it presidential, judicial, and legislative. I think those 3. You guys could look it up for me while I'm talking. Isn't it interesting? Out of all the nations on the planet, one nation calls itself an eagle. You have coins minted with an eagle on it. And I think your flag is even an eagle holding arrows in its hand. And then also a peace banner or something. So it's interesting that there's a rider in the book of Revelation that has a bow, no arrows. So that's kind of interesting there, but I'll make another video about that. But it's interesting that the United States of America, your symbol is a bald eagle that has arrows in its talons, which you could think of weapons, and then also a leaf for peace. So far, so good. Okay, so we have, and again, this is chapter 11 in 2nd Ezra. Oh, man. Okay, so now we get a little bit, I'm reaching right now, okay? Reaching a little bit. This kind of looks like a little bit like America, but just hold on here. And I saw, and behold, she spread her wings all over the earth, and all the winds of the air blew on her and were gathered together, and I beheld out of her feathers there grew another contrary feathers, and they became little feathers and small. But her heads were at rest. The head in the midst was greater than the other, yet it rested with the residue. So the head, I think this has something to do with the presidential branch, or the presidential head. Moreover, I beheld, and lo, the eagle flew with her feathers and reigned. Don't we consider America feminine, like the way it's presented? Like Israel is always known as female, the church is female, America the beautiful, that's feminine, right? So the eagle flew with her feathers and reigned upon the earth and over them that dwelt therein. And I saw that all the things under heaven were subject unto her, and no man spake against her, no, not one creature upon the earth. This is end time stuff, folks. We're before Christ. We're in BC, before Christ, and they're talking about end times. This is very Daniel-esque in nature. Like, you can hold up Daniel right here, the book of Daniel, read it, and then read this and go, boy, this sure feels like end time-ish stuff. And behold, and lo, the eagle rose up on her talons and spake to her feathers, saying, watch not all at once, sleep everyone in his own place, and watch by course. But let the heads, like, don't you Americans call heads of state and all this kind of stuff? Like, this is very American-ish in tone. And I beheld, and lo, the voice went not out of her heads, but from the midst of her body. And I numbered her contrary feathers, and behold, there were 8 of them. And I looked, and behold, on the right side there arose one feather, on the right wing, right side. Well, Republicans, aren't they on the right? Okay, I'm reaching a little bit. I admit it. But you can't help but think this is getting a little crazy here, Shane. Reigned over all the earth. Let's see. On the right side there rose one feather, and reigned all over the earth. And so it was that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more. So the next following stood up and reigned and had a great time. Interesting, right? And it happened that when it rained, that the end of it also came also, like as the first, so that it appeared no more. Then came there a voice unto it and said, hear thou that hast borne rule over the earth so long, this I say unto thee, before thou beginnest to appear no more, there shall none after thee attain unto thy time, neither until the half thereof. Then arose the third, and reigned as the other before, and appeared also no more. So we're seeing the branches being depleted, one branch after another. So went it with all the residue after another, as that everyone reigned, then appeared no more. We're talking about the demise of America. That's what this is saying here. Then I beheld, and lo, in the process of time, the feathers that followed stood up upon the right side, that they might rule also. And some of them ruled, but within a while they appeared no more. For some of them were set up, but rolled not. After this I looked, and behold, the 12 feathers appeared no more, nor the 2 little feathers. And there was no more upon the eagle's body, but 3 heads that rested, and 6 little wings. Then I saw also the 2 feathers divided themselves from the 6, and remained under the head that was upon the right side. The 4 continued in their place. And I beheld, and lo, the feathers that were under the wing thought to set themselves up and to have the rule. So this almost looks like some kind of a coup or something. Then I beheld, and lo, there was one set up, but shortly appeared no more. Like these things are disappearing. Branch gets set up, disappears. The second was sooner away than the first. And I beheld, and lo, the 2 that remained thought also in themselves to reign, 2 branches, I believe. Then they so thought, behold, there awakened one of the heads that were at rest, namely, it that was in the midst, for that was the greater than the 2 other heads. Then I saw the 2 other heads were joined with it, joined heads of state. Have you ever heard of that? Joined heads of state? It's crazy. Behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the 2 feathers under the wing that would have reigned. Meaning, the one of the branches, one of the 3, ate the other 2. Ate the other 2. So the only thing that would be left is the presidential branch. The other 2 were gone. Military, financial, laws, everything gone. But this head put the whole earth in fear, and bare rule in it all over those that dwelt upon the earth, which with much oppression, and it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been. And after this I beheld, and lo, the head that was in the midst suddenly appeared no more, like as the wings. America done. But there remained the 2 heads, which also in the sort ruled upon the earth, and over those that dwelt therein. And I beheld, and lo, the head upon the right side devoured it that was on the left side. Don't we see that today? Right versus left in America. Then I heard a voice which said unto me, Look before thee, consider the thing that thou seest. And I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion chased out of the wood, and I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle. And I believe this is Jesus. This we're talking now, the second coming of Jesus Christ, speaking to the eagle. Hear thou, and I will talk with thee. This is much like the writing on the wall in Daniel. Tickle, tickle, men tickle. Basically, your time is done. It's over. That's what's going on here. Hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, Art not thou it that remainest of the 4 beasts? I've heard that somewhere before. Whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them. And the 4th came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression. And so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. For the earth hast thou not judged with truth. Remember, this person is speaking to this eagle, saying, you haven't judged the earth properly with truth. For thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, thou hast loved liars, and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit. You're destroying people that are trying to feed other nations, and has cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. You went after the people that are not causing you harm. Think about Canada, like the tariffs and all this crazy stuff. Like there's no reason for us to have a tariff war. There's no reason to have walls and all this kind of stuff. Cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. Sometimes I think about Mexico. Therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up unto the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. The highest also hath looked upon the proud times. Don't we feel proud when we're singing the national anthem? Isn't that the theme of America the Great, God Save America, all that? Like the bombs bursting in air. We're proud of, what the flag was still there, all this stuff. Doesn't that kind of give you echoes of America? The highest also hath looked upon proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And there appear no more thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body. Sometimes think about Hollywood. That all the earth may be refreshed and may return, being delivered from thy violence, and that she may hope for the judgment and mercy of him that made her. Now, I think there's a hint of America coming back, but it's not the same America. It's different America. It's peaceful, all this kind of stuff. Whew. That was a lot. But again, remember, this is all written before Christ. You can argue and you can say, no, Shane, it was written 150 AD. Don't care. It's still 1800 years ago. So now you start to wonder, is this why they took out the Apocrypha? Because it kind of looked like it was describing America's downfall? Man, we have to pray for America. We have to pray here in Canada for our politicians, all this kind of stuff. It's not good. It's not a good look. Not a good look. And yeah, now you got Elon Musk who wants to start a whole party. So, yeah, like what I'm trying to say is I'm reading what's in my King James 1611 Bible. This is the first edition back in 1611. And I just shared with you that the first 6 English Bibles had the Apocrypha in it. The Septuagint had the Apocrypha in it. The early church fathers quoted the Apocrypha. They didn't treat it equal, but they preserved it so that you or I one day in the future can look at this and go, oh my goodness, we need to pray for our nations. We need to pray. Because again, you're going to see people on other YouTube channels that are going to go to the books of Enoch and they're going to be like, oh, this is so amazing. Look at this. Enoch's doing this kind of stuff and talking to angels and they're intermarrying with women and everybody gets all fascinated and stuff. But when it comes to the Apocrypha, they're like, whoa, slow down here, man. I want to go to the Book of Giants, man. I want to go to the Book of Jubilees. I want to look at all this stuff. But as soon as you mention something that's 2,000 years old in here, you're like, that's too much of a coincidence that second Ezra would be dropping hints of a nation in the future that models itself after an eagle. You can't hide from this anymore. You can't unsee this anymore. You can't go, oh, I didn't know. Well, I'm telling you, it's there. You could read it online. You don't need to grab this. You don't need to wait. You can go online. King James 1611 Apocrypha online. You'll see it and you can read it. I read Tobit. Very interesting book. I just finished First Ezra, Second Ezra. Now I'm reading Judith. I'm going through the Apocrypha right now because I'm on the 22nd time of reading the entire Bible. And I've been on this journey for 3.5 years. And I'm telling you, 3 months ago, I wouldn't touch the Apocrypha with a 100-foot pole. I wouldn't. But the more you read the King James Bible and then you look at the Apocrypha and you're like, how in the world can you present America, and also other books show Jesus being the Son of God. And I'm going to make a video about that too. There's lots of stuff that we don't know, and we just look at it kind of ignorantly, like we're like, I don't know, that's way above my pay grade. I don't have it, so I'm not going to look it up anymore. I'm not going to look at it. I can barely get through Ruth. It takes too long to get through Ruth. But I've spent, like I said, the last 3.5 years, and as far as I know, I haven't found people in my immediate circle that has read the Bible as many times. So once you start reading it a bunch of times, you start seeing patterns. You start seeing things in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and you can start now when you add the Apocrypha and you're looking at it and you're like, okay, why did they feel like this was important to include it all the way back to the time of Jesus? Like, why did Jewish scribes feel it was so important to transcribe it into Greek to preserve it? Why didn't they just let it go? Why not let it go? Why did John Wycliffe have it? Why did all the other Bibles have it? The Bishop's Bible, the Geneva Bible, Martin Luther's Bible, when he was creating the German language, writing it all out and everything, giving people structure. Thanks to him, you get Germany. Big thanks to Martin Luther. And he included the Apocrypha. Something about this. And I do believe that God preserves his word, and so that we can look this up and study and start looking at this and looking at it from different angles and like, hold on here. Not just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Let's have an honest look. If it was important for 1800 years and the church didn't vote to take it out, like there was nobody that said, hey, yeah, take them out. Instead, they're like, hey, we feel like there was actually arguments saying more on the side of we should include this as part of inspired scripture. But today, via the modern translators, the publishing house, they're all like, no, we don't need the Apocrypha. We never did. Everybody else made a mistake. Everybody else, all the way up to before Jesus Christ, they all made a mistake, including the Apocrypha in our Bible. So my question to you is, who are you going to trust? 1800 years of Christianity, or the last 100 years or so, because somebody tried to shave a little bit off of the weight of the Bible? Do you really believe that was the reason? That they're like, oh, let's cut some costs? Like, that just sounds that's too easy to say that. And we just bought it. And we're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Save a few pennies publishing it without the Apocrypha. When it was there, nobody asked the question to the publishers, hey, hold on one second. Was it in the King James Bible? Yes. Was it in the other 6 early English Bibles? Yes. So why are you taking it out? If it costs extra for you, the printer, don't you just put that on the consumer? Why are you worried about that? Just charge us the extra 5 cents or whatever. Don't take it out and not tell us and then just go, hopefully nobody will notice after a while. And this is how we are. Nobody noticed. I didn't notice for 55 years. Anyways. Yeah. You know, it's cool to read the Bible a billion times. I've never read the Bible a billion times. I haven't. Not even close to it. I get the whole point is to spread the gospel. I get that. I understand that. But There are some books in the Bible where, when you think about Daniel, he crapped his pants. He messed himself because of what he saw coming down the pipes. He was afraid for what was going to happen to his people. He was very afraid, and he's looking at a book, and he's like, whoa, when is this going to happen? And the Lord said, seal it up. Daniel, it's not for you to see. It's way in the future. Go to your lot. And then John goes on an island on Patmos, and Jesus Christ himself says, open it up. Don't seal it up anymore. The time is short. What have we had, like 20 generations since Christ? 20? That's it? That's not too much. It's not too many generations. If you think about 100 as a generation, that's not too long. That's like this in eternity. So God is patient. All right, so let's see here. Not willing to add the words of the Apocrypha to my Bible, but you're willing to take them out. You're willing to take them out. Because that's what happened. It was taken out. You just don't know it right now. That's you're kind of on the surface level. This is shocking your system right now, and I get it. And this is why I warned people at the beginning of this video. I said I'm going to slowly pull the Band-Aid off, because you're going to be like, no, we've never had the Apocrypha for 1800 years. Christians never knew about this. They never read the Apocrypha. When the opposite is true. I'm telling you the truth. People have read it. They've studied it, arguably for 2,000 years. And isn't it interesting that when America started to rise, they remove the Apocrypha? Nothing to see here. I think that the Apocrypha would have kept America in check by going, wow, that sure looks like us. We modeled ourselves after an eagle. We modeled ourselves after wings, feathers, all this kind of stuff. Maybe we should kind of like tone it down a little bit. Because if you think about this here, you got to really think the time that we're in right now. What nation in the world is known for that's basically been established under a covenant? And what nation is known for strengthening deals all over the world, strengthening covenants with our partners overseas? Who talks like that? That's America. America is known for making deals, strengthening their relationships with their allies. Who talks like that? Well, that's America. America talks that way. They were founded on the idea of, we're going to make a constitution and we're going to put all these amendments in it and everything, and America is basically an anti-government establishment, and I would argue an anti-king establishment, meaning you guys don't like kings. That's not your forte to be known for, hey, we need a king. That's not how you guys are. You're independent thinking. You're free from the tyranny of kings ruling you. That's your makeup. That's your genetic DNA. That's how you guys were founded. And you broke away from England to do your own thing under your own branch. And you didn't want it so that the government was so powerful. You created things like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, not against each other. The right to bear arms is so that the government doesn't kick your door down and haul you off to jail. We don't have that in Canada. We don't have that little thing called the right to bear arms. We think we do, but we don't. Technically, we don't. Not like you guys. You have a right to fight against your government. If they get too big for their britches, you have that amendment that says that you're allowed to defend yourself, especially if they come knocking on your door. We just had somebody, I don't know which province, but there was a guy that actually, a criminal actually broke into a guy's place. Might have actually been here in Calgary, but a criminal broke into the guy's house. The guy fought him hard and maimed him, and he's being charged with four counts of assault or something like that. Like, he's gonna go to jail in Canada. I know what would happen in America if a burglar went into your house. He would be Swiss cheese. He would be shot 6 ways to Sunday, then beat up, then maimed, then tortured. It's called the Second Amendment. We don't have that stuff. You guys do. But your whole country, your whole nation is built on a covenant. It's different. It's unique. Because you don't want to be run by a government, even though you kind of are right now. You're kind of caving. But that's not how it was set up at the beginning. And if you think about the Antichrist, where does he kind of breed? He breeds with making covenants, making deals. He's very good at making deals, very good at strengthening and breaking them. We know this. We've read this. For years, we've read this. Somebody's going to come into power. He's going to make a deal with Israel. And then halfway through the deal, he's going to break the covenant. And Israel's going to get caught off guard. We've known this. Well, how many presidents do you know that wrote a book called The Art of the Deal? Do you know what that book is about? It's about how to win in making deals. Have you ever heard of another president that says, once, if you want, let us clean up Gaza and we'll put hotels on the strip? Let us go into Ukraine, but you give us minerals and we'll help fight your war. What other nation talks that way? It's a nation that is used to making deals, to whether it's to strengthen your country or to help other countries. It's like, hey, I'm going to go in, I'm going to sit down at this table, and you tell me what you think your country should get, and you tell me what you think your country should get, and I want you guys to shake hands, and I'll help you. We'll call it the Abraham Accord. The United States of America is known to make deals, whether good or bad. That's what they do. Peace deals. How many times have we heard peace? We want peace. We're having a war so that we can have peace. I'm not trying to pick on my American friends, honestly. I'm just saying, like, if you start looking at these patterns and you look in the book of Revelation where there's a city burning on a coastline and smoke is rising up, and it's called Babylon. There's also images in the Apocrypha about that ancient Babylon that gets burnt to the ground and people are looking on. Not in the book of Revelation, in Apocrypha. I'll probably make a video about that down the road. But you can't help, when you're looking at end time stuff and you look at what's happening to America, you can't help but go, man, we're making deals left, right, and center. Our financial system, as we know it, is kind of on shaky ground. We have a right-wing president. We have a national anthem talking about how proud we are. as a country. Again, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying you could start to paint a little picture of what the end times looks like. And what other nation do you know that runs with 3 branches? Interesting, right? All right. Peace, peace, but there is no peace. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Going to jail in Canada is like going to the beach. Yes, I know. The criminal will probably get out faster than the guy that beat him up, maimed him. So that'll be going through the courts pretty quick here, I think. I don't know. They might toss it out, but I know that wouldn't happen in America for sure. Would not happen. Because you guys have the right to defend yourself. Whereas it feels like we do not. We do not. It's crazy. All right. Thank you guys for watching this video. Appreciate you guys. And have a good night's sleep. And feel free to subscribe to this channel if you like this type thing. Let me know in the comments as well, because then if I know you like this, I can go back to reading Proverbs or something like that. But if you like this kind of stuff, end time stuff, then subscribe, share the video, share it to someone. What do you guys think about this crazy Black Swan guy? Is he onto something? Does that feel like this could be America? Does that feel like this could happen here? I think it's good to ask honest questions. Thank you guys, and I will see you in another video. Bye for now.